Good morning and welcome to our UU Holton Sunday Service online edition from the Unitarian Parlor in Holton, Maine. No matter where you are today, we hope you are well and in fine spirits. Although we do not share the same space and are spread miles apart, we endeavor to find ways to maintain spiritual connection, offer support and encouragement, and make the best of the COVID-created challenges each of us face in our everyday lives. We are still together even when physically apart. Thank you for joining us. If you have a chalice at home, I encourage you to light yours as well. We light this small flame, a beacon of hope and sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we share together. In our moment of centering silence, let us be mindful and alert to the here and now. Let us sit calmly, breathe, and listen to the sound of a singing bowl. Our topic for today is the rational mind, its advantages, its limitations, and how we can't get along without it in our world, which is inundated with fake news, political erraticness, and spiritual ennui. Opening words are from the spiritual teacher Osho. And this comes from his book, Your Answers Questioned, Explorations for Open Minds. If one really wants to live life in all its richness, one has to learn how to be inconsistent, how to be consistently inconsistent, how to be able to move from one extreme to another, sometimes rooted deep in the earth, and sometimes flying high in the heaven, sometimes making love, and sometimes meditating. And then, slowly, your heaven and your earth will come closer and closer, and you will become the horizon where they meet. We are a religious community of connection and concern. Because this is so, each and every Sunday we gather here in this space and virtual space. And we take a few moments to share significant personal joys and concerns one with another. We light candles. At the time of this recording, it is the first day of autumn. So we light a candle for the equinox in the fall days that have arrived. No frost in Houlton, Maine as of yet. On Wednesday of this week, 7 late-night TV hosts dedicated their shows to raising awareness about the urgent need to slow global heating. Jimmy Kimmel had this to say: "The pandemic, racism, income inequality, immigration, gun violence. But here's the thing. If we don't address climate change, none of these issues are going to matter at all. The car is going off a cliff, and we're fiddling with the radio." So we light this multiple value candle for all of these concerns and for our precious earth. And we light this candle of concern for the Haitian immigration crisis on our southern border. May all find safety, shelter, and assistance in these trying times. And as we've been doing all along, we light a candle for the COVID pandemic. We pray for continued diligence, care, and safety as we go about our lives in this new time. And we're lighting a silent candle today for those unspoken prayers, unarticulated concerns, and for you at home to make a mental list of things that you would like to bring your awareness to on this day, to bring some positive energy to those that you love and for those that you are engaged with in your life. The joy or sorrow of one is shared by us all. May our hearts be as one on this day. Let us carry each thought or concern expressed in our heart, and may the light of our love and compassion transform suffering into non-suffering and ease the difficulties of life. We radiate love and the light that we are. Blessed are we all. Amen. Blessed be. We have another song today by Out of the Blue. This is titled So You Say. All of us need love, even on days when we don't feel like we deserve it. We need to hear it over and over again. It never gets old. You are loved. So here are Simon, Mark, and Rita Pritchard.
Your sign over there, Elijah. There it is. say that I'm forgiven, and every deed that I've done wrong is washed away. So you say that I am yours, no matter how far I'll stray, meet me any time of day. So you say, so you say, so you say, so you say, so you say that I am chosen to be the one who carries your beauty. So you say that I am loved, even in my darkest of days when I'm unlovable. So you say, so you say, so you say, so you say, so you say. How am I supposed to believe that? How am I supposed to believe that someone like me could be loved? So you say, so you say, so you say, so you say,
Comedian Norm Macdonald died recently, so there's been a lot of tribute material in the media as we remember Norm. One of them being his famous moth joke that he told on one of his appearances on The Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien. A moth goes into a podiatrist's office, and the podiatrist says, "What seems to be the problem, moth?" And the moth says, "What's the problem? Where do I begin, man?" Then he goes on a rambling, extended monologue for almost 4 minutes about his problems in classic Norm deadpan fashion. And so the doctor says, "Moth, you're trouble, but you should be seeing a psychiatrist. Why on earth did you come here?" And Moth says, "Because the light was on." Today, we take a look at the necessity of logic and rationality in our modern world, and yet, at the same time, recognize that that too can be overdone, like an extended Norm Macdonald joke, and that rationality also needs something else to go along with it in order to get a complete picture. Today's reading comes from a recent issue of the New Yorker magazine, an article titled "Thinking It Through," written by Joshua Rothman, the ideal editor of the magazine. "I met the most rational person I know during my freshman year of college. Greg, not his real name, had a tech support job in the same computer lab where I worked, and we instantly became friends. I I planned to be a creative writer major, Greg told me that he was deciding between physics and economics. He'd choose physics if he was smart enough, and economics if he wasn't. He thought he'd know within a few months based on his grades. Greg chose economics. During our sophomore year, a bunch of us bought stereos. The choices were complicated: channels, tweeters, woofers, preamps. Greg performed a thorough analysis before assembling a capable stereo. I bought one that, in my opinion, looked cool and possessed some ineffable tonal je ne sais quoi. Greg's approach struck me as unimaginative, utilitarian. Later, when he upgraded his old equipment, I bought his old equipment and found that it was indeed much better than what I had chosen. Often I ask myself, how would Greg think? I tried to adopt his habit of tracking what I knew and how well I knew it, so that I could separate my well-founded opinions from my provisional views. Meanwhile, half of Americans won't get vaccinated. Many believe in conspiracy theories or pseudoscience. It's not that we don't think. We are constantly reading, opining, debating, but that we seem to do it on the run while squinting at trolls on our smartphones. This summer, on my phone, I read a blog post by the economist Arnold Kling, who noted that an unusually large number of books about rationality were being published this year. Among them, Steven Pinker's Rationality, What Is It?, Why It Seems Scarce and Why It Matters, and Julia Galef's The Scout of Mindset, Why Some People See Things Clearly and Others Don't. It makes sense, Kling suggested, for rationality to have a breakout moment. The barbarians sack the city, and the carriers of the dying culture retreat to their basements to write a book. In a polemical era, rationality can be a kind of opinion hygiene, a way of washing off misjudged views. In a fractious time, it promises to bring the court to order. And when the world changes quickly, we need new strategies for understanding. We hope reasonably that rational people will be more careful, honest, truthful, fair-minded, curious, and right than irrational ones. Definition of rational in the dictionary: devoid of delusions save those of observation, experience, and reflection. You might be rational and also self-deceptive, because telling yourself that you are rational can itself become a source of bias. It's possible that you are trying to appear rational only because you want to impress people, or that you are more rational about some things, say your job, than others, your kids, or that your rationality gives way to rancor as soon as your ideas are challenged. Perhaps you irrationally insist on answering difficult questions yourself when you'd be better off taking the expert consensus. Possibly like Spock of Star Trek, your rational calculations fail to account for the irrationality of other people. Surveying Spock's predictions, Galef finds that the outcomes Spock has determined to be impossible actually happen about 80% of the time, because he assumes that other people will be as logical as he is. Modern life requires rational systems, and we must improve them, not reject them. And with that, we have no choice but to wrestle with rationality, an idea that the sociologist Max Weber wrote contains within itself a world of contradictions. We want to be more rational as individuals but not overdo it. We need to know when to think and when to stop thinking, when to doubt and when to trust. Rationality is one of humanity's superpowers, but how do we keep from misusing it? Introspection is key to rationality. A rational person must practice what the neuroscientist Stephen Fleming in Know Thyself, the Science of Self-Awareness calls metacognition, or the ability to think about our own thinking. A fragile, beautiful, and frankly bizarre feature of the human mind. The realities of rationality are humbling, but in truth, it maps out a series of escalating challenges. In search of facts, we must make do with possibilities. Unable to know it all for ourselves, we must rely on others who care enough to know. We must act while we are still uncertain, and we must act in time, sometimes individually, but oftentimes together. For all of this to happen, rationality is necessary, but not sufficient. Thinking straight is just part of the work. The title of today's talk is The Logic of the Moment. Usually we think that rationality is an accumulated process of collecting information and experience over a time frame of many years, and then we access the information whenever we need it, in a conversation, when we're making a life decision, or when we're trying to make sense of the latest irrational situation. So while that method certainly works, what I'd like to propose this morning is an additional approach that utilizes the logic of the moment, or the timeliness of what you need to know or need to do is right here and right now. You can know and you can clearly see what is here and now, right in front of you. In Norm Macdonald's moth joke, the moth went on and on with the rational breakdown of his extended problems. But how far did that get him? In the end, it was his own moth nature that got him to the doctor's office. He came in because the light was on. With logic of a moment, we not only use our own rational thinking mind, we also use our heart. Our heart has a logic to it. It feels, it is intuitive, it is wise, it is loving. The rational mind is only one part of a two-part logic system. We need both the rational mind and the wise heart of feeling and compassion. One without the other is incomplete. The two, mind and heart, need to connect, balance, and integrate into one system. Osho says that these inconsistent inconsistencies can come together, that slowly heaven and earth will come closer and closer until you become the horizon where they meet. The article mentions metacognition as a key practice in the attempt to be free of bias or faulty assumptions. Metacognition is the ability to think about our own thinking, a fragile, beautiful, and frankly bizarre feature of the human mind. One of the 5 agreements that we use here at UU Holton, based on the book by Don Miguel Ruiz, is don't make assumptions. You may think you are being rational and unbiased, but perhaps you only think you are. Are you? What is here right now? And how clearly are you seeing it? This is where metacognition comes into play. Think about your own thinking. Be aware of your thoughts and see how they behave and what they're doing. Be as objective as possible. Don't judge or be too hard on yourself. Just observe and see what is there. That itself, over time, will yield results such as seeing more clearly, being grounded in your own experience, increased patience and tolerance for other people's opinions, regardless of their perceived irrationality or bias, increased comfort level with the here and now, regardless of the circumstances. The logic of a moment requires both the heart and the mind operating in sync. The logic of a moment is where it all happens as it happens and how it happens. Open yourself today to your own inner intelligence and all-inclusive compassion. Live well, my friends. I offer to you my best on this day. And now, as we extinguish the chalice, we take with us the light of love and compassion. Spending time together is always time well spent, even if we're online. And now, as we depart, may we take the spirit of our connection with us no matter where we go. Peace and love follow you on this day. I want to thank you all for joining us for this week's UU Holton service. Like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Practice kindness, keep your attitude positive, and look out for those having a difficult time. Have a good week, everyone. And I want to thank our cameraman, Christoph Leibrecht, for filming today's service, and Ben Carmichael and board barista for handling the production details. Couldn't do it without you guys. Have a good rest of your day, everyone, and we will see you next time.